Hello. In this video, we're going to talk about how to write a good statement of purpose. I'm going to critique a particular statement of purpose that I myself had once written many years ago. I was applying to the PhD program in Entrepreneurship at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and this is the statement of purpose I had written. And one of the reasons I didn't get admission into that program, in a PhD program is like very competitive, and they usually admit only 2 students every year, and they didn't give me admission. They picked 2 other students, even though my GMAT score was one of the highest they'd ever seen. I had a 760 on 800 in GMAT. I had a very good GPA. In my MBA, I had fantastic recommendation letters. Because I didn't write a very well thought out statement of purpose, they picked 2 other guys whose GMAT scores and credentials were probably lower than mine. I was first in the waiting list, and then those 2 guys accepted the offer of admission and I never got in. Well, so I'm just going to critique this statement of purpose to give you an idea of what I did right and what I did wrong, so that you can write a better statement of purpose. So, this statement of purpose, the document is there on Coolgrad.com, and you can take a moment and review it. So I'm going to just explain it as I go. So first of all, I didn't write the heading. I didn't write statement of purpose in the middle over here. It's usually customary to start the statement of purpose by writing statement of purpose on top. It's like a heading. I didn't do that. I didn't write my student ID number on the right side, which is another mistake. I mean, it would have been better if I had written it. So I started off by saying, so remember, I was applying to the PhD program in strategy, technological innovation, and entrepreneurship. And in this program, for this program, I wrote this statement of purpose. I started off by talking about how I helped implement and bring about strategic change in my high school. What I did to introduce, some new facilities in my high school. I talked about a very interesting thing we did, which was okay. So I talked about that. I'm going to go about this in detail as I, progress. And then I talked about why I want to go to the Kenneth Flagler Business School, this particular program in entrepreneurship, PhD in entrepreneurship at this time at this university. Why? So I wrote about that. And then I talked about particular professors whose interests fascinated me. Then I talked about my background. I've worked for startup companies, what I've done in entrepreneurship and innovation, and what probably kind of qualifies me, what background I have in innovation and entrepreneurship. I talked about that. And then I talked about what I was doing in my then current job. I talked about some of the previous projects. These are very innovative projects I worked on in a startup company before. And then I talked about what kind of research I want to work on, what kind of projects I want to work on to help people at the bottom of the pyramid. So I talked a little bit about that. And then I talked about one of my friends. Her name is Aishwarya Ratan, and she introduced this very, she kind of helped with the innovation of this very interesting product. It was like a slate in which people in rural parts of the world, those who can't do manual calculations, they enter their items purchased and their calculations, like amounts, in using a kind of a pen, and it automatically converts it into a kind of a spreadsheet and does the calculations for them. So it was a very interesting project that interested me a lot, and I wasted a whole paragraph talking about somebody else's research. So I talked about that. And I said, this is the kind of stuff I want to work on. And then I also talked about my undergraduate and graduate research in computer science, what kind of projects I implemented. And then, so I talked about what I studied in my MBA, what kind of courses I took, what kind of cross-cultural, background I have, and what kind of GPA I had. And then, again, I went back to talking about my high school days and how I was a great Toastmaster and stuff. And then I said I want to be a great professor and impart knowledge to the younger generation. And I said I can be a very capable candidate, and I want to join this university. So, I zoomed the text. This whole thing was fitting in about like 2 pages. So I'm going to go over this in detail and critique this statement of purpose. I just zoomed the text so that it would be easy to read and easy for people to see the font. So I'm just going to go to the very top, and I'm going to say all the good and bad things about this statement of purpose. First of all, the heading was missing, student ID was not written there, and the date was not written. So when you're writing a statement of purpose, remember to write the heading, your student ID number for this university, and the date. So I said in my high school years, I was head girl of my school. So that's kind of interesting. Among all the statements of purpose they receive, okay, so this girl was the head girl of her school. Okay, that makes it stand out somehow. And I wanted to bring about radical reform in the way certain subjects like physical education, sports, and music were perceived by the management. I said the management, like in our high school, the main objective for most of the students was to excel in academics and get, good grades and get into a good college. But we also had to emphasize a lot on, extracurricular activities like music and physical education, and, we didn't have a highly qualified sports or music instructor. And so I talked about how we developed strategies and got permission from the management and participated in various inter-school, music and sports competitions, and then we won prizes, and with the support of the parents. We also formed a group that was interested in quizzing. We won inter-school and state-level competitions, and we were also, we went up on television channel, we became famous, and the management was pleased, and then we got more encouragement for sports, music, and general knowledge. And so I talked about how this strategy helped my school and how I was instrumental in bringing it up. I said from my high school days, I've been very keenly interested in strategy, entrepreneurship, and decision making. So this is okay. I spent 2 paragraphs talking about this whole thing. Could have been a little more concise, but it's okay. So this is a good thing. I think it's good. So it makes my statement of purpose stand out. Started with something exciting I did. Okay. And then I talked about why I want to go to the PhD program at Keenan Flagler and entrepreneurship at this time. So some of the reasons for this are because the program combines my passion for the 3 subjects: strategy, entrepreneurship, and technological innovation, and very few top-tier programs in the universe offer a combination of these 3 areas. There are actually quite a few universities which offer this combination. So, okay, they offer this combination, and so I'm interested. I took too much space to talk about that. A statement of purpose has to be so well thought out. You shouldn't be wasting time talking about wasting precious space, real estate area in the statement of purpose, talking about things that are obvious. Okay, so most people know there are very few programs that offer a combination of these 3, and your university is great. So is that some reason why they should offer me admission? I'm sure a lot of applicants think that this program is great. That's why they're applying. So we're kind of wasting time talking about it. So this could have been written in a much more concise way. So is that there are very few programs in America which offer this combination, and I'm really keen on pursuing this program in PhD in strategy and entrepreneurship at Keenan Flagler at this time. So it could have been worded in a much more concise way, is what I'm trying to say. And then I said, Keenan Flagler is an institution of high repute in these domains. Everybody knows that. Don't waste your time talking about things that people already know about, okay? I am immensely fascinated by the research of professors like Professor Jack Casarda, aviation industry related research, and Professor Albert Seegers. So I shouldn't have wasted too much time on that. So I could have written the whole thing in one short sentence saying, the highly reputed Keenan Flagler Business School is one of the very few institutions that offers the combination of strategy, technological innovation, and entrepreneurship in the United States. And I'm eagerly looking to pursue this program, and I'm fascinated by the research of these 2 professors. I could have made the whole thing much more concise. I should have spent another 2 paragraphs talking about their research. So I should have read their papers and said, this is what their ideas are and how I can help them with their research. A PhD is all about research, remember. And the mistake I made was that these 2 professors happened to be already retired professors in their very late career. they were no longer really actively researching at the university. So I went over the entire university department website, and I was supposed to pick two professors whose interests, I was impressed with, who I wanted to work with, potentially. And I didn't realize that these two professors were no longer really actively researching at that time. I should have picked two younger professors, like assistant professors, associate professors, or even full-time professors, who are actively researching. So when, after I was offered first place on the waiting list in the offer of admission, I didn't really make it to the program. So one of the professors called me up and he said, hey, your grades were great, your GMAT score was great, but your statement of purpose was really, it made us think whether you really knew what a PhD program is all about. And those two professors you talked about, whose interest was, whose research interested you, they're no longer actively researching. The younger professors are working on something else, and your research interests didn't align well with their research interests. Remember, if you're in the PhD program or something and you tell your advisor, hey, I'm interested in something else, he may dump you. You have to align your interest with the professor's research interests. It's your responsibility. So they actually told me that's one of the main reasons they didn't give me admission. They pick only 2 candidates out of maybe 100 or 200. It's so competitive. And even though I had the highest GMAT score, I was, considered third best. So it's like I was first in the waiting list. So I should have talked a lot about their research and how I can help their research. First of all, the 2 professors I picked were not the best professors to pick. I should have picked actively researching professors. Keep that in mind. And then I didn't talk about how I can help them with their research. And I said I worked mostly in startup and small size IT companies in my career spanning 6 years. So at that time I had 6 years work experience. I said I worked both in the Silicon Valley in California and in Bangalore, which is the Silicon Valley of India. I am highly interested in researching how to best to grow an organization from small to big, while not losing the family atmosphere and creativity prevalent in startups. So I said I'm interested in startups and innovation and entrepreneurship. Yeah, that's kind of okay. That was actually one of the research areas of one of those professors. Then I said in my current company, I was working for this company, and I said we're working on a particular application called Blackboard, which is going to be used by universities, and we are building the mobile application for Blackboard, which will be used on the mobile for different companies. It talks about what I'm doing in my current job. It's okay. I could have done this whole thing in about 2 sentences, made it more concise. So I said, tens of students, thousands of students at universities will use this app, and that we hope that this will make the app sell like hotcakes. That's kind of, it's not a very professional way of writing it. It's kind of colloquial. So, sell like hotcakes. I probably should have used better terminology there. So, I should have said maybe we hope that the app will be very popular or something. I talked about my previous companies, okay? One of my startup companies I worked for, Composite Software Solutions in Bangalore. We worked on these innovative websites, Suggestica.com, a website that suggests what are the best books in each different category to read. And then Odondo.com, that was like, it was a whistleblower software. So if there's something going wrong in the organization, you can report it anonymously to the top management. So I worked on all these innovative products, websites, which became spin-off companies, and I talked about them. Yeah, that's okay. There's Diffel now. It's a calendar synchronization tool, and ActiveVibe, that was a platform for sports instructors to connect with sports enthusiasts. So I talked about those. That part is okay. And then I wish to research the process of innovation in technology and about how to reach out to the people at the bottom of the pyramid who are not very familiar with its benefits. In my country, India, most of the top software companies are service and consultant organizations. Though if you think about a lot of software companies in India, there's like system integrators or implementation partners. They implement service projects for a lot of other companies, clients all over the world. Companies like Infosys, Wipro, Maitri, a lot of these companies. They have very few products that they can showcase. So I want to teach young entrepreneurs in the top business schools the value of developing software products as opposed to services. So I want my country to develop products instead of being a service-oriented industry. So I talked about that, which is good. Which is good. This part is good. I think it's okay. And here I talked about my friend's research. My friend invented this slate which could be used by poor people. They write on it and it automatically converts it to like a spreadsheet and does calculations for them. And I think that's amazing. And I wasted this whole paragraph talking about somebody else's research. Okay, her research was great. She was my friend. Okay, but why should this university give me admission to the PhD program just because my friend did this amazing research? It's like you're throwing names and you're trying to, impress them by saying, hey, I know these popular people. That's not cool. I wasted this whole space talking about somebody else's research. So don't. Talk about your own work, okay? Think about everything you write. Is this going to help me get admission to the PhD program or to the master's program, whatever you're applying for? So I wrote this stuff. Is that going to make them feel like giving me admission? I know all these famous people. Oh, this great guy was my neighbor, and this great inventor was my friend. So why should they give me admission? So don't waste time talking about other people's research and don't throw names around, okay? So, I said I've also been keenly interested in research, especially in the domain of artificial intelligence, technological innovation, and commercialization of technology. So I talked about projects I've worked on as an undergrad and grad student. So I talked about implementing a neural networks-based system to detect and identify faces in pictures. Face detection, face recognition, and based on how a person types, it identifies who's typing. That's biometric person identification using neural networks. I implemented all these projects. That's okay, but I designed a protocol to ease congestion at access points via load balancing in distributed networks. Okay, it's okay. You can talk about it, but based on this, it's not going to probably make them feel like giving you admission. They need something much more concrete than this to give you admission. But these were innovative products that I worked on, and it was okay. It was probably good to talk about them. It's okay. So, when I was doing my MBA at this university, my favorite courses were international marketing and product strategy, which were related to entrepreneurship. And then I realized I could bring to the table a lot of value given my cross-cultural, diverse work experience in the US and in India. My passion for the subjects I studied during my second year MBA at the university helped me secure second place in the class of 50 with a GPA of 3.88 in the second year. That's okay, but this part is okay, but talk more about your research interests, what you can do for their university, how your research interests align with their research interests, and how you can contribute to their research, and what you can do in a PhD program. And then I went back to my high school days. Talked about when I was a schoolgirl, I was admired for my communication skills and speeches in class. Okay, when you were in high school, you were a great speaker. Is that some reason why they should give you admission to the PhD program? PhD is all about research. They don't care how good a communicator you are. They don't really care how good you are at teaching and public speaking. I said I was one of the prize Toastmasters in Bangalore. I won the Bangalore City Speech Contest, first prize among all the schools in Bangalore. Is there some reason why they should give you admission to the PhD program? This whole thing was a waste. I said I was valedictorian of my high school. In the beginning, first two paragraphs when I talked about the cool stuff I did in my high school, I should have just added one more line to say I was a prize Toastmaster and also a valedictorian of my high school. One more sentence that should have been done. This whole paragraph was a waste and highly irrelevant. And I said I've always wanted to be a professor, imparting knowledge to and mentoring the younger generation. That's not a professor's primary job. A researcher, a PhD student, an assistant professor, associate professor, or a full-time professor, their primary job is to do research, publish papers, come up with new ideas, and invent new protocols and publish papers. That's what they do. They don't care so much about teaching courses, mentoring the younger generation. So remember, a professor has three important tasks. One is research. Another one is getting grants for the university by submitting research proposals, getting money for the university, grants. And The third one is, of course, teaching courses to graduate and undergraduate students. That's something they just do because somebody in the university needs to do it. That's how they keep the university running. So the primary job of a professor is not teaching. A lot of professors keep their jobs, even if they're not good teachers, they don't do a good job teaching, they still keep their jobs. They're valued very highly and prized as great researchers. Even if you're the best teacher in the university, if you don't do good research or don't get grants, you're kicked out. So they don't really care so much about whether you teach well or communicate well, you're a great speaker or not. This whole thing was kind of gave them the wrong impression. It made them feel like I don't even know what a PhD is all about. Made them feel like I don't even know what a professor's primary duties are. PhD and professors, it's all about research. Talk about research. They don't care if you're a good teacher, impart knowledge or not. They don't care. So, in fact, when one of the professors called me back after the decision was made, he told me, "You talked so much about your passion for teaching, mentoring the younger generation. We don't give a damn about that. It's about research. You don't seem to understand." That's what he told me. And the time when I was applying, I seriously didn't know, believe me. So I want to interact with and learn from the creme de la creme of the academic world. As a professor, I would get lots of innovative ideas for research while teaching bright young students in class. What? That doesn't make any sense. So I'm relying on the young students in my class while teaching them. I'm going to get ideas for innovation and research. So I'm relying on the students to give me ideas. That really doesn't make any sense, now that I think about it. So, based on my strong credentials, passions for technological innovation and entrepreneurship, and keen interest in the research being performed by some of your faculty members, I believe I can claim to be a very capable candidate for the PhD program in strategy and entrepreneurship at UNC Chapel Hill. Thank you, and I put my name. So the last part is okay. I believe I'm a very strong, capable candidate, and I request you to offer me admission. That part is okay. So if you see the statement of purpose, I've been jumping all over the place. So I've been talking about, so I'm going to go up to the very top. So first I talk about what I did in my high school days. Then I talk about why I want to get into Kin and Flagler and which professor's research interests me. Then I talk about my background in startup companies, what I've done in entrepreneurship. Then I jump back earlier to my undergraduate days, what projects I implemented. And then I talk about my high school days again. And then I come back and say what kind of research I want to do. So I'm like jumping all over the place. Start off with an interesting introduction, that part is okay. And then I was supposed to talk about why I want to join this university at this point of time, how it's going to help me in my career, what are my career goals, and talk about at least 2 paragraphs about the research done in the department and what research fascinates me. That's what interests me. And then I shouldn't have wasted time talking about other people's research. I could talk about my entrepreneurial experiences, which was okay. Talked about some of the interesting, innovative projects I implemented as a graduate and undergraduate student, which was also okay. But I shouldn't have wasted time talking about high school days again. Talked about my background, what projects I've done, what startup experience I have, which is okay. I should have talked much more about their research, what's going on, and how I can help them with their research. And then I should have talked about what I can bring to the table, and I should have done more research about what a PhD program is all about. Talk about research if you're applying for a PhD program. Don't waste too much time talking about teaching and innovation and all these other things. They don't really care about that. So you see, I've been like jumping all over the place. There should be a good consistent flow. A catchy introduction, which is okay. Why you want to do this, what kind of research fascinates you, and how your research aligned with the university is what you should talk about next for 2 or 3 paragraphs. Talk about your background, what qualifies you to get into this program. And then say conclusion. Why I'm a strong candidate, please give me an offer of admission. Don't waste time in other unnecessary details. A statement of purpose. So these mistakes that I made turned out to be very costly mistakes. And I didn't get admission to this PhD program. So I hope this helps you in writing a better statement of purpose. Thank you.